to our next event this evening, and that is a forum between our two Democratic candidates for the office of Mayor of Broomfield. And I have to admire these two gentlemen. This is their fourth forum in the last 8 days. So they're getting good at it, by the way. And so we're really happy to have them with us this evening. We did draw names earlier, and I didn't have a chance to mention it. Kevin, you're on first. So who's on first? You're on first. We're going to start with each candidate giving an introduction to their candidacy. They have 3 minutes. We have 2 timers up front here. And they will be given a 30-second warning, a 15-second warning, and a stop. And stop means stop, okay? So, Kevin, you're on first.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. I love that no matter how many times I come here, there is a huge group. I love that there's always new faces. I love that everywhere we go, there's more people plugged into local politics than ever. I am going to say that the credit to this goes to somebody I don't normally credit with anything good. I think it's Donald Trump. I mean, there's always been a lot of people involved at the local level here in Broomfield, but truly, with what's going on in Washington, there's people that have never been involved in a council election at all that are having meet and greets, people that have never had a yard sign that are having a yard sign, people that are taking it more seriously, people that are coming out to hear from candidates to make informed decisions. And I think it's healthy, and I think it's good. I think it's the tiniest of silver linings. I've spoken to this group a number of times, so it's hard to know what I could say in a 3-minute introduction that would be beneficial. I do want to acknowledge a couple people. So my wife and I have 4 kids between us. We have 2 in high school and 2 in college, and my wife Mila and one of our kids Maya is here. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, definitely, they deserve a smattering of applause. Mila is extremely involved in the community. She's a teacher at Cole Elementary. This is her 22nd year teaching, I believe. She does a number of other things. She's a court-appointed special advocate on the side. She's on the foundation of she's on the board of the Friends of the Library Foundation and serves on the One Book, One Broomfield group. And Maya, what a precocious young woman, and also so involved on both her student council and our city's teen council, National Honor Society, and a number of other things. I grew up under some difficult circumstances, but not the worst. I had people around me that I knew, other families that had it far, far worse than me. I consider myself a worker. I think I was on a precipice growing up with enough obstacles and dysfunction in the household that you had to fight to overcome. And it was kind of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger type of situation, where I know people were on the other side of that tipping point and it was too much to overcome and they went in the other direction. I worked my way through college for several years. It took me 7 years of working at night, mostly as a janitor in apartment buildings in the day. I got a degree in chemistry with minors in physics and math. At the end of that, I was working for a small medical device manufacturing site. And from there, worked my way up in medical device and pharmaceutical companies to management positions. On council, I have been strong. I have listened. I have learned. I have advocated. I would like the opportunity to take a lot of the successes that we've had a little bit further. I look forward to your questions. And again, I just thank you for even participating in local politics. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pat Quinn, and I have lived in Broomfield since 1981. My wife, Carlene, who's in the back there, and I have enjoyed raising 5 daughters, all of which have attended Broomfield High School, or at least one's attending now, and will finish in 4 years. I'm a lifelong public servant who has dedicated the last 30 years to improving Broomfield. I'm perhaps the proudest of my efforts on Broomfield's open lands programs. I'm often referred to as the architect of our open lands program, which has accumulated over 8,000 acres of open space over the years. I was elected as mayor in 2007, just when the Great Recession hit, and as a CPA, I led our city through the Great Recession and left the city better off, reducing the city's debt and getting our economy growing again. As mayor, I had the opportunity to work regionally with the Metro Mayor's Caucus and the US 36 Mayors and Commissioners Coalition, mostly on transportation. I'm very proud of the efforts we put into the US 36 Managed Lanes Multimodal Project and the Flatirons Flyer Bus Rapid Transit, which carries nearly 20,000 riders a day. But let's discuss oil and gas. I understand your concerns, our concerns about the health impact of oil and gas drilling. My promise to you now and in the future and everywhere is that health and safety will always be my #1 priority. And regarding the current oil and gas drilling in town, the city's health department should report, document, and investigate every health claim they receive involving oil and gas or any other matters. I think the city should have on staff an epidemiologist and perhaps a toxicologist. So where do we go now? Operators are proposing new drilling. It's probably not helpful to argue who has worked harder for local control or that I would have taken the city down a different path in 2016 when council unanimously approved Extraction's MOU. Everyone in this room is proud of the fact that SB 181 is now the law. We won, we all won. SB 181 gives us powers we could not have imagined in 2017 when Broomfield's Oil and Gas Task Force first met. SB 181 allows us to use our land use powers to ensure that oil and gas drilling only occurs where health and safety are assured, but it does not allow us to ban oil and gas, and it also gives us the responsibility to justify what we do as both necessary and reasonable. So tonight, I recommend that we follow a very deliberate approach, one that will withstand the court challenges surely ahead. Let's form another citizens committee, bringing together the whole range of interests in the city, from environmentalists to, yes, our citizens that work in oil and gas industry. Their charge will be to pick up where the previous committee ended and have an earnest discussion on how we adopt 181, strengthen our current regulations, and to analyze the impact of recent health studies that can maybe increase our setbacks. So let me close by saying that I was proud to serve as mayor between 2007 and 2013. It was an awesome responsibility, and I ask for that honor to serve you again. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to move on to a question that the executive board of the Broomfield Democrats presented ahead of time to both candidates. And this is the question. What do you think are the most important tools at your disposal as you fulfill your obligations as mayor? So what do you think are the most important tools at your disposal as you fulfill your obligations as mayor? Kevin?
We also start this? I thought Pat might start since I went first last time. I don't mind starting.
Let's reverse it. Yeah, that's right. You let off, so that's good. I'm glad you suggested that.
2 minutes.
Thank you, Kevin. 2 minutes? 2 minutes. Okay. So, when you are elected mayor, which I was in 2007, and 9 and 11, you get, they basically give you 3 things to be the mayor of the city. You get a pen, because you sign every legal document that the city has. You get a pair of scissors to cut ribbons because you're the ceremonial head, and that's something that's important to the city, and they give you a gavel to run the business meetings. And you only get to vote when there is a tie, which in my opinion means the process has failed. So the tools that I think are the most important for the mayor are the tools of leadership. And it's my leadership skills that I'm offering tonight, the leadership skills of being able to collaborate, to work for consensus. You know, in city council meetings, there's been a discussion about the business meetings having more debate, more discussion. Where the debate and discussion should occur is in the study sessions. And the first thing I'm going to ask for, which I don't think council does now, is that every study session be televised. Members were always concerned about having televised study sessions, but they should be, and that was where the work really belongs in city council. And I'm very proud of the fact that 12 current and former members of city council, most of which worked with me on city council, have endorsed me because of the efforts I did in those study sessions to make sure every member of city council was heard. I'm proud. I mean, Martha Durden comes up to me, and she's a Republican, and I think being mayor should be a nonpartisan job. You should talk to everybody, regardless of what their partisan points of view, and you should bring their viewpoints out. So when Broomfield makes decisions, the city council makes decisions, we do it through a collaborative, nonpartisan process, and that's the tools I'm going to bring to the mayor's job.
I think the most powerful tools that the mayor's position holds, like most leadership positions, whether they're formalized, like the head of a department at a company, or a position in the military, or whether they're informal positions, like a lot of community activist leadership positions. And that is that you have to communicate, and you have to share a vision. You have to share a vision in a way that people can understand it. You have to listen to people. You have to make them part of the plan and part of the vision. The mayor has some official responsibilities that can help change the agenda. The mayor can get things on meeting agendas faster or slower, for instance, move the conversation. The mayor would work across all 5 wards and work with all of our department heads. So you have a lot of influence across departments and across the city. But to be honest, like any leadership position, it's presenting a vision and sharing it. My vision is that we have a council of 10 members plus a mayor with equal access to information. 10 people equally heard. A safe environment to disagree, to share opinions that might be new or unpleasant to some. I think that we need to have dialogue that's respectful. And then I think we need to move towards what each individual person believes is in the best interest of their constituents. And sometimes they agree and sometimes they don't, and that's okay. Group decision-making only works when people are actually making their own decision. When people come out and vote 10-0, what I lose is whether they really all felt that way or whether it was 6-4. And the 4 just came out to vote to show this united front, a consensus. I miss a debate. It's not a democratic process. And lastly, I will say, fortunately, Devin Chaff and I actually now have every single meeting being streamed and recorded. The only ones that are audio and not video are the ones where they cannot get a good video set up yet because of the conference room, and those are audio recorded and streamed. And we have pushed for that for years, and it's now every single meeting. It's one of my proud accomplishments. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this will work. We'll go back and forth as to who goes first, who's on first. So that gives the other person a little bit of time to think. I think that could be helpful. So tonight we heard from some school board candidates. So I think it's appropriate that we start off this evening's question. And Kevin, you will go first. With a question regarding education. And here's the question. When the city approves new housing development, it often means a new school is required. The local school district is responsible for finding the funds to build the new school, usually through a bond measure that must be passed by voters. What role, if any, should the city play in helping the school district pass its bond to serve the children in the new development? More broadly, how do you think the city can partner with its school districts to benefit Broomfield kids?
1.5 minutes, right, Annie? 1.5 for these questions.
I'm sorry, say that again?
1.5 minutes, just what I was from the.
Yes, yeah, okay, we're now, thank you for that clarification. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to that question. And I will reread the second part when I pass the microphone to Pat. All right, here you go.
Okay. By the time we get to the last question, it's like 5 seconds. Number one, we should not be building homes where there are not schools to support them, and I have voted that way. One of the last huge portions of Anthem Highlands came with enough homes that they estimated, I think it was about 770 students. It's basically an entire elementary school. And we had already overflowed all the elementary schools in the area. And they were in mobile trailers. And there weren't room for more mobile trailers. And we asked Adams 12 staff to come in and say, if we approve these homes, where will the kids go? And they said, well, if we get this bond and mill levy on the ballot, and then they pass, the bond will go for building the school, and the mill levy can go for more operational costs. But if it doesn't get on the ballot or doesn't pass, I don't know. So I said, no, I'm not gonna vote for this. And what if our police came and said, well, you can build all this whole new neighborhood, but we can't support it, we don't have the people? Or what if the fire department said that? We would still just build it anyway? No. So that's number one. Number two, you communicate these issues to the residents. You let them know what you think. I'm a fan of voting on them in council as a way of just saying we support this. We can form a board or commission to work with the school board members. There's things that we can cooperate on, especially mental health issues and public health issues. Mental health issues are a public health issue. And we can cooperate on some financial things. We don't run the school districts, but we can be more cooperative with them. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to repeat the question real quickly. What role, if any, should the city play in helping the school district pass its bond to serve the children in the new development? More broadly, how do you think the city can partner with its school districts to benefit Broomfield kids?
I think Broomfield's in 6 different school districts. There we have a little piece of District 50, so that's a great question. You know, I think most of us used to dealing with Adams 12 and the Boulder Valley School District, but you know, my understanding and certainly my involvement has been that the city is involved in the planning, and when we're planning on subdivisions, we're working with the school districts continuously. And once again, primarily Adams County and the Boulder Valley School District. So we are planning. The school district should understand, you know, what planning is being planned, what density is being planned, and I think that occurs now. Now, the question on the bond issues is a great question. What happens then, you know, if you've worked with the school district, you know that you planned a school, and the school district, you know, can't pass that override. I mean, that's an issue, and certainly one that I stop and think about. I mean, I don't like to see the city council get involved in a lot of telling people how to vote, but one of the ones I've always felt might be valid is on school district overrides. When we have planned for a school district to have a school, and that school district's gonna have a valid override, so there may be an advocacy position, certainly for the individual members of council, but the schools, and having schools there is very important to Broomfield, and we need to work in conjunction with the city to make sure that we have the right planning, and then work, I guess, to get the bond issues passed.
My turn. I don't know how you guys do this. This is tough. You get the first question this time, or you get to answer first. Does the mayor have complete or near complete control for setting council meeting agendas? That's the first part. Second part is, if so, if you are elected mayor, how would you handle a request by a council member to add an item to the agenda that you do not support?
My view is that the mayor doesn't have any real control over what the agenda is going to be. It's a process that starts with the priority sessions that you have in January. The mayor, the mayor is working on behalf of city council, and the mayor needs to make sure that the agenda, there's certain items on the agenda that are going to happen no matter what. They're business items, which they be PUDs and the like, but the agenda setting process, once again, it's a collaborative process, and I presume you guys still have item, what is it, 16A, where a member can put something on for the next agenda. Kevin, is that correct?
18A.
18A. And so the process is a collaborative process that you're working with city council to make sure that the city council wants its items on the agenda. And then what happens is that the mayor and the mayor pro tem, and I think that process still occurs, work with the city manager and staff to get that presentation of the of the agendas, so it's what city council expects to see. But the mayor has zero power of their own. Their power is based on their leadership ability. They've got to make absolutely certain that city council backs them, on any agenda item they want. So I view the agenda as you're working on behalf of city council with the mayor pro tem on behalf of city council to make sure the council's getting the agenda they want in the format they want, and they all have equal access to information.
Right now, the mayor has definitely a lot more authority and influence on what the agendas are. I'm not sure if this was asked out of pure curiosity. There have been council members who have struggled to get things on the agenda. It can take weeks and weeks if it doesn't necessarily have the support from a key person or two. Other things can slide on more easily. The agenda should be set more on a priority basis, just like a corporation would. Just like when I run meetings with numerous people in corporations, the agenda can't be politically based. It's got to be the number one priority that you have to address. The mayor can take more authority to set the agenda based on some of the rules that we follow, but really it should be more or less consensus driven, that piece of it, and just based on the highest priority thing that has to move forward. That's just what makes sense. On the school thing, I forgot to actually finish something I started saying, which was that when we were building the housing and everybody was in mobiles, we asked Adams 12 where would these kids go, and they said that if the bond didn't pass and the levy didn't pass, they didn't know. They'd be split up between probably multiple different cities, North Glen, Thornton, several others. I also wanted to say that one of the things that I've done since I've been on is just about a month and a half ago, got school safety resource officers in Adams 12 fully funded for the first time ever. Took about 2 years to work that through our council, so it's another thing that we can do is help with school safety. Thank you.
Just wanted to say too that we got some great questions from you this evening, and what we did is we sorted them into topics, and there was some repetition between some questions and others. So if your question isn't read verbatim, please understand we tried to incorporate your thought into the question that we did select for reading. Well, I went on the website last night, the Broomfield City Council website, and I wanted to see, what does the mayor do? I mean, there's talk about the city mayor, the city manager, the city attorney, the assessor. And so I think maybe a lot of us tonight would like to know just what you will do. And this is the next question I think pertains to that. And Kevin, you will lead off on that. How do you, as a leader, propose to incorporate the advice of city employees, such as the city manager and city attorney, if they don't agree with your views?
You know, it shouldn't be about agreeing with views. These are experts. You need to treat them like experts. When we're doing economic development and you're presented with a project, let's say it's on a key parcel of land, and you want to know, is that the best we can do here? You start by asking your economic development director. These are experts. You can ask other people and they can give you other opinions. And then what you do with all your advice is you take it in and you weigh it. And you think about what you've heard. Was it torn? Was it lopsided? Did you hear good things? These are highly skilled technical advisors that absolutely have to be listened to in the areas of finance, transportation, securing our water, economic development, all the public works, health and human services. We run a jail because we're a county. We have a police and sheriff's department combined because we're a county. You listen to these experts and you weigh what they say heavily. But disagreeing, boy, on a technical level you wouldn't disagree, and on a policy level, that's not usually how you use a technical expert. If we want to move more towards cooperating with schools, better funding of schools or something like that, then you use the experts to figure out how you best do that. But you don't ask them, should we do that? I mean, you could, and you can weigh their advice, but if that's the goal, if the policy is to cooperate more with schools, you use those experts to figure out how to very best do it, most effectively, most efficiently. Thank you.
So the question is, what happens if the city manager or city staff disagrees with you on a technical issue? Or was it, or on any issue?
Specified, just
On any issue.
on issue.
I guess one of the things, why I'm running, is because I think we need to make sure that city council gets back to a policy setting role. I think the last few city councils have gotten a little bit too much into the details, and so first and foremost, the policy of the city is set by city council, and the mayor leading that process. So when it comes down to the policies of what the city wants to do, where it wants to spend its money, the city manager certainly is going to participate in that process, and certainly is going to provide you advice throughout that process. But at the end of the day, the city council is going to set that policy. And then when it comes down to the city manager running the city, and we have a new city manager that I think was 9-1 vote, and I think the 10th vote would agree now that she should be city manager, that we've got to allow Jennifer to have the running room to be the city manager and not try to micromanage what she does and when she does it. And so she has to develop her own leadership style. George DeCiro had his own leadership style, and Charles Ozaki had his, and now Jennifer needs to develop her leadership style. And I think it's important that we give her that running room to develop her study and to run the city, and that city council gets back to setting policy and not micromanaging.
Okay, I think, Pat, is it the first one? What would be your vision of a reasonable timeline for completion of the Civic Center?
It's starting.
Well, and we've been in 4 forums, as I said the other night. My understanding, and I have not seen the contract yet, that there is a contract that City Council is going to be looking at before November 1st, and I assume that there are timelines within that contract. And I'm not privy to the contract. I don't think, has it been presented to City Council yet, Kevin? Okay, so I'm not sure it's available to any of us at this point in time, but I think it's realistic. If we have a contract going, my hope would be that you would hit the ground running. There's that phrase again. You'd hit the ground running, and that you would that within the next year or two that you would see construction occurring. And let's just say you would assume that this type of construction project could be completed within 2 to 3 years, and that there's penalties within that contract that if the developer doesn't meet those deadlines, that there be penalties. So the incentives are in place for the developer to do it. But I'm at a little bit disadvantaged because there's a contract that's in place right now that has its own timelines, and maybe Kevin can share those with us. So.
Thank you. We actually do not have a contract that does cover this. Where we are right now is that we've selected a developer. It's a couple of people. It's Dana Crawford and Joe Vostrich, very well known in their worlds. Dana Crawford for things like revamping Union Station with the Crawford Hotel above it, and the first one to really revitalize Larimer Square, which now Joe Vostrich owns. They have put together plans along with another company that we hired that designs urban centers. Those plans have been looked at by engineers that say it's feasible. They call for expanding this pond down there 4 or 5 times over. Gorgeous walkways, several outdoor restaurants. You could have seating on the water in the summer, some paddle boats in this huge pond. And then they married the plan up with the budget, and they said there was a $50 million gap. And so they came to council a couple months ago with a $50 million gap, and that was a starting point for financial negotiations, which is where we are right now. And that gap has come down substantially in the negotiations. It has not come down to anything else official because we haven't been presented with anything at council. But the next step will be to wrap this up. Engineering, studies, lucky if there's groundbreaking next year, maybe in 4th quarter, probably 1st quarter of 2021, with shops opening in 2022 and 2023.
Kevin, you're going to be leading on this next one here too. Over here is a map of the city and the different wards. And here's Ward 5 way over here on the eastern side of Broomfield. So this question is with regard to Ward 5. I think we don't like to think that all wards are created equal, but after hearing this question, you may wonder. Ward 5, no services, limited infrastructure, takes forever to get anywhere. How will you, as mayor, address the northeast growth?
There's two major components here. There's smaller ones too. In 90 seconds, two majors. One is land use and economic development. We have to be smart. We have to think about negative and positive impacts that developments bring. So we have some of the hottest real estate in the whole Denver metro area. We don't have to accept the first thing we get. We should accept something that has low impact on things like traffic. So on Highway 7, we were presented with a plan for 7 fast food drive-through restaurants on one parcel of land on Highway 7. Okay, those would have lines of cars wrapped around them, and all 7 would come in and off of Highway 7, a street that has to flow. It would be for people cutting through Broomfield. Nobody up there is asking for this. That is the wrong kind of project. The right kind of project, JP Morgan Chase server building. Gonna bring us $1 million and some in tax revenue, comes with 30 employees a shift only instead of hundreds, small building in the middle of a big parcel. Second, we have to be unique and creative with transportation. So I represent the upper part of Ward 4, which includes things with low transportation, like no call-in ride. I sat down with seniors from Anthem Ranch and Wildgrass, and we figured out that cities use Uber and Lyft as part of their transit program in many places. And I worked with Uber, Lyft, city staff, transit management organizations, and then worked an idea through the Dr. COG, which is the Denver Regional Council of Governments, and I got $800,000 allocated to Broomfield for a pilot study using Uber and Lyft as part of our public transit. So we have to be forward-thinking and creative. $800,000 of federal money for a pilot with Uber or Lyft here in Broomfield. Thank you.
First of all, I would suppose in Ward 5 that transportation is one of the bigger issues that they have, and that we need to make absolutely certain that some of the things that we've been working on for several years happen. One of the things that I got involved in at the end of my mayorship, and I understand this continued over the last 6 years, or I know this continued, is on Highway 7. The biggest problem in Broomfield, the east to west traffic that goes across town is horrible because there's no effective east to west transportation and no transit whatsoever. So first and foremost, I would work hard to get funding, regional funding like we did for US 36 for Highway 7. There's plans on the board that there be managed lanes on Highway 7 from Brighton all the way to Boulder, working through the issues in Lafayette, and that we would have bus rapid transit on that. And that's something I would work very strongly for, to make sure that we have the east to west transportation corridor that we need. On other issues like rec centers and libraries and those issues, that I would work very strongly with the Parks and Rec group or the Open Space and Trails Committee and the Library Committee to make absolutely certain that there is access to the North Corridor, because that was an issue when I was mayor. It remains an issue right now. And so I think regional equity is something that's extremely important, something I would work hard for, to see that Ward 5 got its fair share of the services of Broomfield.
Okay, this one's for you too, Pat. In a radio advertisement on social media, you claim to have played a role in the passage of SB 181. Please elaborate on your involvement.
Absolutely. So let me go back to my involvement in oil and gas. I got pulled into to oil and gas in 2013. Everybody knows that the Sovereign Oil and Gas MOU. And the one thing that was very clear to me at that point in time was that the local government had absolutely no say whatsoever, that all the powers were at the state. And so I got myself appointed to Governor Hickenlooper's Oil and Gas Task Force in 2014. And I was the one who drafted what was called Recommendation 20, which basically introduced the concept to the oil and gas industry that their oil and gas plans need to be part of, need to be part of our comprehensive plans. And so that Recommendation 20 was adopted unanimously, including 8 people on the oil and gas task force unanimously, and the concept of local zoning powers, local land use powers being used to regulate oil and gas had never been discussed before. The industry was opposed to it, and I introduced that concept that they do it. It's my understanding, that when Broomfield then had its oil and gas task force, which I advocated for and participated on in 2017, we were deliberate in our processes, and that the fact that Broomfield was so good in what we did was encouraging to a lot of members to be part of SB 181. So the concept of local control of zoning is something I've worked hard on since 2013.
Okay, Kevin, please also respond to your involvement in passage of SB 181 or other help in protecting the community from oil and gas.
Thank you. When I came on the council in 2015, this wasn't an issue. In 2016, we were dealing with extraction rights. They'd been sold from Sovereign and Noble, and we were lied to by them. We were duped. And I would say that the vast majority of the people in here, certainly who know me, know that I've been one of our community's most staunch opponents of this project and of drilling. I have worked endlessly, hundreds or at this point thousands of hours with every bit of energy I have to try to stop this horrible project. I've done it through educating. I've done it through talking about what's in the contract. I've done it by talking about health studies. I did it by helping residents come up to speed with what was going on, what had happened, how we got where we are. I helped resident experts like Lori Anderson, who's here, Jean Lim, Heidi Hankel, who's here, and others come up to speed. They organized in their communities, and it became a massive network, something so powerful that it was one of the primary forces behind 181 itself. Something that I gave input on, although it was limited because the people who drafted it wanted it that way. I testified on it. I've driven 2 rewrites of our oil and gas regulations. I've educated numerous people on health impacts, and I've stood steadfast, whether I'm talking to extraction, the people, or staff, that we must prioritize health and safety. And I've done absolutely every single thing within my power to make that happen.
Okay, this is the last question we're going to have from the audience, and then we'll have concluding remarks, and then all of you will have a chance to mingle with people who are here this evening. And some of you whose questions weren't asked, you might want to ask the candidates on a one-to-one basis. Okay, so Kevin, you're going to lead off with this one again. How does your personality and temperament make you best suited to be mayor?
When I look back at other leadership positions that I've been in, whether it was a chair of the Broomfield Democrats, or whether it was a supervisor at a car wash when I was in high school, it is giving everybody the utmost due respect. I never cared in high school what they looked like or who they hung out with, even though that was a thing. What clique are you with? I managed a group at a car wash effectively because I was fair to everyone, because they knew I was fair, because they knew I'd be the first there and the last to go home. On council, my disposition is one where when I hear a better idea, I trade up to it and I tell people, here is the best thing I have heard. Do you have anything better? I want everybody to speak, not just let. I will bring it out of them. If somebody's dominating, sometimes they have to be tempered a little bit. Everybody must be heard and all opinions must be valued. In this race, I am supporting 5 council candidates who are among the most talented that I have ever seen run for these local offices. They are across the political spectrum. I'm a Democrat. In one race, there's 2 Democrats and an independent, and I'm supporting the independent or unaffiliated. 2 people that grew up Republicans have left that party because it's gone crazy. But these are highly engaged, intelligent people that I would, as mayor, get the very, very most out of on behalf of our community. That's how I would lead this council. Thank you.
You want me to repeat the question?
My temperament.
And personality. All right.
Well, I think that may be one of the reasons why I'm running for mayor, because I believe the leadership begins with listening. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to repeat I have 12 members of the city council, past and prior, that support me. 6 Democrats and 6 Republicans. I work with everybody. I view the role of the mayor as a job of getting council to work together as a unit. And so what I will do, I will work with city council, find out what their likes and dislikes are, get them to collaborate on issues that that we can work with early on in the game, and take the ones that we can win on early on in the game, and then tackle the other ones as we go. But the bottom line is, my temperament is to work with people, to get collaboration, to get consensus on issues, and then once consensus has been arrived at, then make sure that we all follow through on that consensus and we do the public policy that needs to occur for the best of the citizens of Broomfield.
Okay, for closing comments or statements, 1 minute, and we're going to conclude in the same manner in which we began. And so, Kevin, you will go first.
Thank you, and thank you again for coming out. I have been endorsed by numerous elected officials from cities and counties around here, from Adams and Boulder counties, from Erie, the Mayor Pro Tem in Superior, Senator Mike Foote, a couple of the US Senate candidates, Representative Joe Neguse. I am running because I have a vision for a government based on pure transparency and honesty and real representation. And when I say that, I likely admit to other representatives in your life. Maybe you hire a lawyer or an accountant or a business manager, and when they go to meetings, you expect that they are doing nothing that is not purely on your behalf. That they are honest and transparent with you, and that everything they do is in your best interest. We should not just be representatives by title, we should be representatives by noun, by actually acting as your representative. If you have any questions, I'm going to stay and chat with people, and then I'm going to budget reviews at City Hall. Thank you for being here. Have a great evening.
I get my minute.
Yes, I'm sorry. It was a senior moment.
So, Brookfield's a big enterprise. We have a budget of $300 million. We have 850 full-time employees. We don't have a constitution, so we don't have checks and balances. So on any given other second and fourth Tuesday nights, City Council can change the direction of the city. And what I'm offering the city right now is my leadership skills, my CPA skills, my ability to get people to work together to come to common goals. I've done it throughout my life, and that's what I'm going to promise to do in Broomfield. Whether the issue be the budget, whether the issue be oil and gas, or whether the issue be the Civic Center, I will do everything I can to help get the City Council working together and making sure that our contractors and the people deliver. So please vote for me for mayor. I'll stick around and answer whatever questions you have.
Okay, a couple of closing remarks. First of all, we have some other candidates in the room. Trying to get them in order. We got William Lindstedt.